Okinawa has more centenarians per capita than anywhere on Earth. 68 people per 100,000 live past 100 years old. Researchers traveled there expecting to discover genetic secrets. Instead, they found a bitter vegetable that most Westerners cannot stomach. This plant contains compounds that lower blood sugar as effectively as the world's most prescribed diabetes medication. It grows in any backyard with summer heat. Welcome back to Secrets Beneath Nature. If you have ever seen this warty green vegetable at an Asian grocery store, leave a comment, subscribe, and join our community. Walk into any restaurant in Naha, the capital city of Okinawa. Watch the elderly couple at the next table. They will order a dish called Goya Champuru, sliced green vegetables with ridged, bumpy skin, stir-fried with egg and tofu. The vegetable looks alien. The texture appears almost reptilian. This is bitter melon. In Japanese, they call it Goya. And these centenarians have eaten it 3 to 4 times every single week for their entire lives. Dr. Bradley Wilcox spent 25 years studying Okinawan longevity. He co-authored the Okinawa program in 2001. His research team documented the daily eating habits of people who routinely live past 100. They expected to find supplements. They expected to find special preparations. Instead, they found bitter melon served at ordinary family dinners, grandmothers slicing it thin, grandfathers eating it without complaint, children learning to tolerate the taste before they could read. The bitterness is real. Western visitors often cannot finish a single bite. Their taste receptors revolt. Everything in modern food processing has trained us to avoid this sensation. Sugar in bread, sugar in pasta sauce, sugar in foods that have no business being sweet. The Okinawan palate developed differently. They learned that medicine does not always taste pleasant. They learned that the foods the tongue rejects are sometimes the foods the body requires. Here is the first clue that something went wrong in the West. 1 billion people across Asia eat bitter melon regularly. In India, they call it Karela. In China, they call it Kugua. In the Philippines, they call it Ampalaya. In Vietnam, they call it Muop Dang. 5 names, 5 food cultures, 1 plant that Western grocery stores do not stock and Western doctors do not mention. Fragmentation mirrors what happened with other Asian plants. No unified English name created, no unified English awareness. Bitter melon remained foreign in each separate encounter, never familiar, never integrated into Western consciousness, never studied by Western research institutions with Western funding. The ancient record tells a different story. In India, Ayurvedic physicians documented bitter melon more than 600 years ago. They used it to treat a condition they called prameha. The symptoms included excessive urination and sweet-tasting urine. Modern physicians would recognize this immediately. They were describing diabetes. 6 centuries before insulin was discovered, Indian doctors prescribed bitter melon for blood sugar management. The Karaka Samhita is one of the foundational texts of Ayurvedic medicine. Scholars date its origins to approximately 400 CE. The text describes bitter melon as a treatment for digestive disorders, skin conditions, and metabolic imbalances. 1,600 years of documented use, yet Western medical schools teach none of this history. In China, bitter melon appears in texts from the Ming Dynasty, which lasted from 1368 to 1644. Chinese medicine classified it as a cold food. Practitioners prescribed it for clearing internal heat, brightening the eyes, and purifying the blood. The applications align remarkably with modern research findings. The ancient physicians did not have blood glucose monitors. They did not have clinical trials, but they observed, they documented, they passed knowledge across generations. The translation wall prevented Western access for centuries. Ayurvedic texts remained in Sanskrit. Chinese medical encyclopedias remained in classical Chinese. The knowledge existed, but Western researchers simply could not read it. By the time translations became available in the late 20th century, the pharmaceutical industry had already established its preferred solutions: metformin, sulfonylureas, and injectable insulin. Patentable compounds had protected profit margins. Now consider what modern science has confirmed. In 2011, researchers in Thailand published a clinical trial in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology. Dr. Phuong Chan and colleagues recruited people with type 2 diabetes. They divided them into groups. One group received metformin, the world's most prescribed diabetes medication. Another group received 2,000 milligrams of bitter melon daily. After 4 weeks, both groups showed similar reductions in fructosamine levels. Fructosamine measures average blood sugar over 2 to 3 weeks. The plant matched the pharmaceutical. The mechanism is not mysterious. Scientists have identified 3 active compounds in bitter melon. The first is carotene, a mixture of steroidal saponins. The second is polypeptide P, sometimes called plant insulin because its structure resembles human insulin. The third is vicine, a glycoside that affects glucose metabolism. 3 separate compounds working through 3 separate pathways. This is not folk medicine. This is biochemistry published in peer-reviewed journals. In 2008, researchers at the Institute of Biochemistry in Taiwan published their findings in Molecular Nutrition and Food Research. Bitter melon activates an enzyme called AMPK. The full name is adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase. This enzyme functions as a master metabolic switch. When AMPK activates, cells absorb glucose more efficiently. Fat burning increases. Energy production improves. Here is what makes this discovery significant. Metformin works by activating AMPK. The most successful diabetes drug in history operates through the exact same mechanism as a vegetable. Same pathway, same cellular response. One requires a prescription and costs hundreds of dollars annually. One grows from seeds that cost $3 per packet. The research extends beyond blood sugar. In 2010, Dr. Ratna Ray at St. Louis University published findings in Cancer Research. Her team tested bitter melon extract against breast cancer cells. The results showed 80% inhibition of cancer cell growth. 80%. The extract triggered apoptosis, the process by which damaged cells destroy themselves. The cancer cells died. Healthy cells remained unaffected. That same year, researchers at the University of Colorado studied pancreatic cancer. Dr. Rajesh Agarwal and colleagues published in BMC Complementary and Alternative Medicine. Mice with pancreatic tumors received bitter melon juice. Tumor growth decreased by 60%. Pancreatic cancer has one of the lowest survival rates of any cancer. Patients desperate for options have never heard of this research. Scientists isolated a specific protein responsible for some of these effects. They named it MAP30. The protein shows anti-tumor activity across multiple cancer cell lines. Researchers at New York University documented this in the early 1990s. The studies exist. The citations exist. The knowledge sits in databases that practicing oncologists never search. Search PubMed yourself. Type metformin diabetes. You will find more than 35,000 studies. Now type bitter melon diabetes. You will find approximately 400 studies. The ratio is 87:1. This is not because metformin works better. The Thai clinical trial proved comparable effectiveness. This is because metformin has funding and bitter melon does not. The global diabetes drug market reached $60 billion in 2024. $60 billion annually for a condition that affects 462 million people worldwide. Metformin alone generates $3.2 billion in sales each year. These are not small numbers. These numbers represent corporate infrastructure, sales teams, marketing budgets, lobbyists, research grants to universities that might study alternatives. Now consider the economics of bitter melon research. A clinical trial costs between $10 million and $50 million. Who pays for clinical trials? Pharmaceutical companies expecting return on investment. They fund trials for compounds they can patent. A successful trial leads to exclusive manufacturing rights. Exclusive rights lead to premium pricing. Premium pricing leads to shareholder returns. Bitter melon cannot be patented. It is a plant. Anyone can grow it. Anyone can sell it. Anyone can process it. A successful bitter melon trial would prove effectiveness, but generate no exclusive profit for the sponsoring company. The investment makes no business sense, so the investment never happens. This is not a conspiracy. This is economics. rational actors pursuing rational self-interest within a system that rewards patentable innovation and ignores natural alternatives. No villain sits in a boardroom plotting to suppress bitter melon. The suppression happens automatically through funding decisions that follow predictable financial logic. The taste barrier creates additional obstacles. Bitter melon genuinely tastes terrible to untrained palates. The compounds that provide medicinal benefits also trigger intense bitter sensations. Western food culture has spent a century eliminating bitterness. Coffee became sweet. Chocolate became sweet. Vegetables became palatable through processing and sauce. Okinawan children learn to eat bitter melon before they can form preferences. The taste becomes normal through early exposure. American children learn that food should taste like sugar. The bitter vegetable never gets a chance. Picture a family in Phoenix, Arizona. The father has type 2 diabetes. His doctor prescribes metformin. The pharmacy charges a $40 copay each month. Side effects include digestive upset and vitamin B12 deficiency. He takes the medication because he trusts the system. 3,000 miles away, a grandmother in Okinawa slices bitter melon for dinner. She has eaten it for 80 years. Her blood sugar remains stable. Her doctor visits are routine checkups rather than chronic disease management. The knowledge gap separates these two people. The American patient has never heard of bitter melon. His doctor learned nothing about it in medical school. The clinical trial data sits in journals he does not read. The translation of Ayurvedic texts sits in libraries he has never visited. The information exists. The pathway to that information does not. You can grow bitter melon yourself. The plant thrives in USDA hardiness zones 9 through 12 without protection. In zones 4 through 8, the plant requires warm microclimates. A south-facing wall that absorbs heat helps. A greenhouse extends the growing season. Black plastic mulch warms the soil. The plant needs heat. It needs temperatures above 80 degrees Fahrenheit for germination and warm nights for fruit development. Start seeds indoors 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. The seeds have hard coats, so soak them in warm water for 24 hours before planting. Some gardeners nick the seed coat with a file to improve water absorption. Plant in rich soil with good drainage. Bitter melon vines climb aggressively, and they can reach 12 to 15 feet in a single season. Provide a sturdy trellis. A fence works, a pergola works, anything vertical that can support significant weight. Harvest fruits when they are still green. The bumpy skin should look jade-colored with firm ridges. Once fruits turn orange, they have passed peak eating quality. The bitterness intensifies, and the flesh becomes mushy. Orange fruits serve one purpose only: seed saving. Inside each overripe orange fruit, you will find seeds surrounded by bright red arils. The arils taste sweet, a strange contrast to the bitter flesh. Remove the seeds and wash away the red coating. Dry them thoroughly on paper towels and store them in a cool, dark place. The seeds remain viable for 3 to 4 years. One healthy plant produces dozens of fruits, and each fruit contains 15 to 30 seeds. A single successful season provides seeds for a decade of future plantings. Preparing bitter melon for eating requires strategy. Slice the fruit thin, no thicker than a 1/4 inch. Salt the slices heavily and let them rest for 30 minutes. The salt draws out bitter compounds through osmosis. Rinse the slices and squeeze out excess moisture. The bitterness reduces significantly, though it never disappears entirely. The Okinawan method combines bitter melon with scrambled eggs. The protein and fat coat the tongue and mask the bitter sensation. In the Philippines, cook stuff bitter melon rings with ground pork and simmer them in tomato sauce. The acidity balances the bitterness, and the meat provides a savory counterpoint. In India, families cook Karela with onions, tomatoes, and strong spices, cumin, coriander, turmeric, to add complexity that distracts from the bitterness. Modern preparations include juicing. Combine 1 small bitter melon with 2 apples and a thumb of fresh ginger. The sweetness of apple and the heat of ginger transform the flavor profile. Start with small amounts, for example, 1/4 of a bitter melon blended into a large smoothie, and increase gradually as your palate adapts. Okinawan centenarians did not develop tolerance overnight. They developed it across decades of consistent exposure. The transformation from passive consumer to active cultivator represents a fundamental shift in relationship to health. The pharmaceutical model positions you as a recipient. Doctors prescribe. Pharmacies dispense. Insurance companies approve or deny. You wait. You pay. You hope the system works in your favor. Growing medicine in your backyard positions you as an agent. You select the seeds. You prepare the soil. You tend the vines. You harvest when ready. You process and preserve. You control the inputs. You understand the process. You depend on no supply chain, no insurance approval, no prescription pad. The 100-year-old woman in Naha eating Goya champuru tonight does not think about pharmaceutical profit margins. She does not wonder about clinical trial funding mechanisms. She does not analyze economic incentives that shape Western medical research. She simply eats what her mother ate, what her grandmother ate, what generations of Okinawan women ate before Western medicine existed as an institution. The knowledge was never hidden. Korean farmers grew bitter melon in their gardens. Chinese medicine shops stocked it on open shelves. Indian families cooked it in ordinary kitchens. Filipino markets sold it by the kilogram. The information existed in plain sight across half the planet, in languages that Western databases did not index, in cuisines that Western palates rejected, and in traditions that Western research budgets ignored. $60 billion flows through the diabetes medication industry annually. Bitter melon seeds cost $3. Clinical evidence shows comparable effectiveness through identical metabolic pathways. The choice between these options has never been presented to many Western patients because presenting that choice generates no revenue for anyone with marketing budgets. Now you know. You know that centenarians in Okinawa eat this vegetable several times weekly. You know that Ayurvedic physicians prescribed it for diabetes symptoms 600 years ago. You know that clinical trials demonstrate effectiveness matching first-line pharmaceutical treatments. You know that the same AMPK pathway targeted by metformin activates when you eat bitter melon. You know you can grow it in most climates with summer heat. You know the seeds save and store for years. The pharmaceutical industry will not tell you this. Your doctor probably does not know this. The information exists in research databases that nobody searches and in historical texts that nobody translates. But the plant does not care about market dynamics or research funding. It grows, it fruits, it produces seeds. It has done so across Asia for centuries, and it will continue for centuries more. Subscribe and watch the next video to discover more secrets hidden beneath nature.